Welcome to episode 115 of A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. I'm your host, Eddie. And joining me this week, a man who plays Crimson Scales with the amDirt group, who played ability cards to do things, who attacked a monster for a fairly decent amount, and got to flip one of those cool attack modifier card things, which resulted in a shiny, dust-covered ×2, which doubles the amount he attacked for. And he almost fell over in the sudden rush of dopamine that flew to his head. Welcome to Gloomhaven. Gaz! Say hi, Gaz.
Hi, guys. Yes, the rush was amazing. I think that's how they get you there, right?
Yeah.
First hits.
Well, this is why we've been playing the game. I don't know what you've been playing for, but this is what we're getting.
Yeah, I get now why Phil enjoys it so much, right? Like,
yeah,
it's bizarre.
You've unlocked.
No, it was, and I think maybe because it's not that I didn't expect a crit, but I expected to miss. So my expectations were like way better. It did 10 damage instead of 0.
Yeah, okay. You've gone past the progression from slowing down the crit side to at least hit something with maybe a -2 or a -1 zeros, and gone straight to the end game.
That's it. So yeah, but I feel like it's a false sense of security because now I'm going to be like, oh wow, this is really cool. And now this session next time I'm going to miss. I'm going to predict 3 times.
Ooh, so 3 nulls.
3 nulls. Yeah.
Are we counting curses?
No. Curses aren't. That's not my fault. Like getting cursed is my fault. So that's for I can't blame curses. Drawing curses, that's it. That's just life. They're supposed to come out. But drawing a null 3 to 5 times in a session is not normal.
Yeah, I guess this also means that you will, because in the past, if there's a cursed target, you're like, that's okay, I'll take it. Now you don't want it so much because you're in a character that, and in the reverse, you also, if it was a may receive bless, you didn't bless yourself. Whereas that sounds like something you might be interested in now.
100% I will be doing myself. Yeah, I'm going to be. I realized after last session I have to be more greedy.
Yeah, okay.
It's going to be more about me. Where do I see the big numbers? Where do I move to not get hit? Where do I go to get the loots?
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy for you that you've unlocked an aspect of the game that you didn't know existed. So well done. And hopefully that trend continues and it's not a one-off. I mean, that's your only crit for the campaign. On today's episode, right after our dirt sheet, we're going to be recapping Scenario 20, Midnight Ritual. We'll be doing our amDirt Diaries, where we'll probably discuss not only any updates on us, but our first impressions of the Ice Meteor, now that we've seen it, and conditions permitting, which I think we might get to today. We'll see. But I'm almost certain we might be able to cover 1 or 2. All right.
Just on that, do you know the Ben Affleck joke about how he kept getting bumped? Not Ben Affleck, sorry, Matt Damon. Damon joke. Very, very quickly, without going too far into it, there's one of the shows, I can't remember who it was, Jimmy Fallon maybe, but one of those they kept saying and we've got Matt Damon on the show, right? And then they had to bump him due to time. And then they did it again. And I don't know at what stage it became a meme or a joke, but they kept doing it. And and it escalated and he actually came back on. Because I think they kept saying it. They were like, oh, and apologies to Matt Damon, we didn't have time for you. And I think they maybe kept saying it on the show just as the end of the show. Yeah. But then they had him on again and they bumped him again and didn't do it. And he got really angry. And then there was a whole thing with him and other people, but it was very funny, and so I feel like the conditions as the Matt Damon of the amDirt show.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. I have to look into that. That actually sounds really good. All right, dirt sheet. I got a notification from Aetherworks. So in Australia, when the shipping containers reach the ports of the various countries, they go to a distribution hub, and they're in charge of putting all the pledges together for all of the respective backers. So I got a notification saying that Gloomhaven 2.0 has arrived at their distribution center and they're currently putting everything together. If there is any last minute address changes that need to be put forward, now is the time. So this is usually the part where within a week or so, things just randomly get added to my AusPost tracking thing, and I will hopefully have a delivery at my door, which is very exciting.
It's very exciting. Yeah. So is that a job? Is there like an extra step and a job now for people to like receive these giant bundled deliveries on a crate and then sort through them and build new boxes to send to you?
Yeah, because I think I'm using like Nemesis, for example. You got the base game of Nemesis, you got all of the expansions, and then all the extra bonus content and people who paid a little extra for all the crap that they definitely needed. And then the places that make those aren't going to then split them up into every individual person's thing. Their job is just to make it, get it out, and then send it based on its numbers to the places. And then this Aetherworks' job to sit there and go, okay, Daddy ordered this and all of the add-ons, so we're going to grab one of those, we're going to grab one of those, grab one of those, and put it all together before then they send it out to me, which is where, yeah, if there's a problem, usually it's their fault because they missed
Okay.
something or they gave you two of the same expansion and no base game or something like that.
Yeah, okay. So it's like the people at the supermarket that do your online shopping. They push the
Yeah.
little cart around and they go, "Oh, Daddy wants one of the Gloomhavens
Yeah.
and one of the." Yeah, okay, okay,
I
interesting.
think, I'm almost certain that's the way they do it. I doubt the manufacturing plants are going to do that. Put
No, now that
everyone's
you
budgets
mention it,
together.
it makes absolutely no sense for the manufacturing plants to do that. I just thought maybe it might sort it at their end, but then they'd have to like stack it weird, and yeah, it makes
Oh no,
sense.
they want
So
to pump out the next game. That's that's in the queue basically.
yeah, that's true, and send off another ship.
Exactly before tariffs go up. The other thing is Frosthaven Digital came out with a demo, playable demo, and it's free, I believe, on Steam. I have not tried it. I just haven't had time. I think Mark's been playing it with Phil, and it's been really cool. But I guess this is more of a if you been living under a rock, you didn't know that this was out. This is a phenomenal way to actually play a bit of Frosthaven, get a feel for what it feels like digitally. If you've played the Gloomhaven version, see what's changed. This is obviously still, I guess, to put it like early access or something. It's a demo, so there's things that still can change. But from what I understand, I think all the starters, or maybe four of them, are available from the beginning. In the demo, it's a bit different to what the early access was. So I
Okay,
think
cool.
that there is a list on the official Frosthaven demo page of what's I think available. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
a,
I'll have to check it out. Like, it was interesting. I know that the devs are really open to feedback, or at least they are open to people providing them feedback. I haven't really checked how much of like the changes that they're taking on board to do it, but I think they are trying to make it amazing. And I have seen a little bit of discussion in the Discord for it. So, yeah, definitely, I'd recommend people if they haven't give it a go, including you, Daddy. You should give it a go,
I should give it a go.
and I should give it a go too.
We should give it a go.
Yeah,
We should probably play with Mark and
yeah,
Phil, and
and
then
Phil.
stream it or something like that.
Yeah,
That could be
probably.
interesting.
Yeah.
I was going to say this is also I think because there's so many people mention to us about their campaign, it kind of hits a wall, and you see it sometimes on Facebook posts and Reddit where groups just can't get together enough to play it. So this is an opportunity. Jump online. It may not save the progress of your campaign, but it's a nice fast way of going, hey, that thing we're trying to do where we catch up once a month to do this. Jump online and do this. Let's play.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I didn't get to finish. I missed a good chunk of Gloomhaven when you guys all played through it, when I played through it originally with you. And before Frosthaven came out, I was able to smash out like pretty much the entire of a Gloomhaven campaign with one of my mates, playing two characters each. And yeah, like it's not the same game. And I know there's a lot of purists out there that like, especially Frosthaven, because there's a whole bunch of stuff in Frosthaven that's very tricky to do digitally, and it'd be interesting to see how the developers get it in there. But like, it's a very close adjacent to the physical game, right? Like, it's not missing enough stuff that you would say like it's completely different and it's no good. It's like if you just don't have the capability of getting 3 to 4 people together regularly to play a 12-month campaign game, right? Then I would highly recommend people try digital.
I'd be fascinated to speak to the people who have put in like the 4,000 hours into Gloomhaven digital people or just the people in general who discovered Gloomhaven through the digital format only and then go, oh, wow, this is based on a board game. Try the board game and be like, wow, this is terrible. Right? Wouldn't that be the
Yeah,
mindset of someone who's kind of gone that way?
yeah, I'd love to be in the room when somebody's who's been playing Gloomhaven digital went like, "Whoa, they're making a board game about this." When 2.0 got announced.
Just
Um,
just sitting there and trying to get your head around Monster AI when knowing that it just does it for you and being like, wow, this is terrible. This analog thing is hot garbage. Like just sitting here and picking cards, and it takes forever to set up. It takes up so much space. Like I can totally see a world where I would say at least 95% of people who have played digital first probably don't like the physical. Like surely.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like though it's interesting, right? Because like, say, take a game like Dead by Daylight. You know, I haven't played it, but I've seen it and I know the game. And we played it at Game Mania a couple of years ago with some people who played it quite a bit. And they're like, whoa, this is such a cool adaptation of the video game into board game state. Oh, I can see, like when we do a mechanic, which we haven't played Dead by Daylight. Well, I don't think you haven't.
No.
We're just like, this is a mechanic of the game. And they were like, oh, like appreciation of how they've managed to, yeah, because that's what happens in the game. You have these weird moments and like, oh, no. So that was like a cool, I got a little bit of an extra burst of energy when like Mangy was talking about how much like the video game it was, because it was like, oh, that's really cool. I'm really glad they paid homage to that and did it. So I wonder if a Gloomhaven digital player played Gloomhaven afterwards, like the board game, we're like, whoa, I love how they managed to do the monster AI just like in the digital.
Nah. No way.
Like
it has to be because of the rule set's basically identical. Whereas obviously a board game is an adaptation of a video game with different, it's a completely different game. But the board game is much simpler, by the way. Like from a heaviness scale, Dead by Daylight, the board game compared to Frosthaven and all of that, it's easy to get into and make those comparisons. But because, if like the digital version is exactly the same as the board game version, except it's just doing everything for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe. And do you reckon those same people would also at the end of a scenario go like, I'm just going to collect all the gold? Because I can. Because the digital version is not stopping me from doing it.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder how much they're going to listen to that actually with house rules and have them as toggles.
Oh yeah, true. Toggle house rules. Just cheat a little. Start with an extra card. If you draw a crit, if you draw a miss, just draw a different card.
As someone who's played a lot of digital, being you, what do they do about the advantage disadvantage thing? Because a lot of people house rule do 2 piles for disadvantage and pick the worst, and same thing with that. Is that something they've done in digital?
I can't remember. I mean, disadvantage just picks the worst, right? Like the game knows which one is the worst one.
Yeah, but it's with rolling modifiers. A lot of people house rule that rolling modifiers. You draw the first one, if it's rolling, keep going, and then it's that. And then the second one, if it keeps rolling, and that's not how disadvantage kind of works. But a lot of people, they know the disadvantage and the advantage rule, but they're like, nah, it's dumb. We prefer our way, which is just to run off the rolls, make 2 long piles and pick one. I'm curious about
yeah, I don't think it does that. I think there were a couple of things I can't remember now. It's been so long since I played, but there were a couple of options I think in the options for alternate ways of doing some rules, and I can't remember exactly what it covered, but I do think they weren't that extreme where it's like, oh, you just get more cards. But there were some things that like, do you want to do it this way or that way? I think.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, house rules and mods. That's what we need, right?
Yeah, we love those. We haven't had a good house rule discussion in a while. Could someone start one? Dwarf, start one.
Well, 2.0 is coming out soon, so I reckon we just start one. We wait, and then when people get 2.0, they're like, so I've been playing digital, and now I got 2.0. Can I just like have the monsters just move wherever I want them to? Because it's heaps easier than having to remember the rules for AI.
100%. When monsters move in the digital format, they look like they're just randomly moving and hitting random people. So basically what happens is when the monsters activate in our board game version, we just make them make random movements around.
That's it.
Yeah, it's more fun. See, we got the ball rolling. Now people
That's
add
it.
to it.
Now someone go make that post.
Oh no, someone will. In preparation for 2.0, what house rules are you planning to implement?
That's so good. All right, I'm gonna have to make that post.
All right. The last thing on the dirt sheet is the schedule moving forward. In that we've got 6 sessions left. We've planned to have our last session, I believe, on Monday, the 21st of July, and then you are on leave, and I am also. That's when I will be on leave and be heading to the States after that, and then. amDirt will be on hiatus for just a bit. I don't know just yet, but it's more a countdown until that kind of happens. And ultimately, content will be being released, but I can't say that it'll be sticking to any really rigid schedule. I think that's probably the most important thing, is that we will have Gloomhaven content, we'll have the character unboxings and all that kind of stuff, which we may pre-record and then, drip out, depending on what the timing kind of thing looks like. But yeah, it's not the routine that we have now. And I think that it's just cool to think that, holy crap, this year is just flying.
Yeah, definitely. It's very exciting. I mean, I think it'll be interesting as well if we record some of, like, say, the unboxings pre you going away and then some of the unboxings post you going away. People will be able to watch and go like, oh, this one he looks young and sprightly, and this one he looks old and disheveled.
That's right.
Like, this one must have been like months after the baby. Like, nope, this is a week.
It gets to do a look back. That'll be great.
Yeah. And we got to do the unboxing as well
Which one?
for the baby.
Yeah, that one's set already. I'm not doing the unboxing. The doctor's doing the unboxing.
No, you got to hold up the baby, and we've got to like go. Oh, like what's that? Oh, that's the fingers.
Yeah.
All right. I think when the levels up, it will be able to use its fingers to pick things up.
Yeah, everyone can judge the mini.
That's it. I'm not painting that one.
All right, we will recap scenario 20. Midnight Ritual. We have our two events to quickly gloss over. So, City Event 37, we were in another random market when we spotted a tribally, I'm going to use that as a word, that's a describing word there, geared orchid who randomly brings out a whistle and then goes all Disney on the surrounding animals who flock to it. And then it offers to sell us this amazing whistle, or we can charm the orchid into giving us the whistle for free.
I never got to live in a world where you just randomly could sell things to people in the middle of public, right? Like, we were walking around and we're like, oh, that's a pretty cool whistle. They're like, oh, I'll sell it to you. Like, have you ever done that? Have you ever just been out in public? Someone's been like, oh, cool hat. And you're like, $20?
No, not like that. I mean, I've been to the market where as you're walking down the aisles, a guy's screaming at you $1 a bag of, bananas or something like that, which is super cheap, by the way. But I'm thinking back to obviously when I was a child. But yeah, that's a little bit different to like actually noticing something from someone and them saying, hey, well, if you like it, I'll sell it to you.
Yeah. Or like someone's just like cruising around on a skateboard, or like, I don't know, it has a pogo stick and you're just like, whoa, that's really cool. And they're like, yeah, $50 and you can have it. It'd be like, okay, yeah, like so random.
But you can just, in this world, you can also just not pay them and just charm them for it.
That's true. We can charm them. And so I think, did we choose to charm?
No, because Phil Moneybags Phil, who seems to have an endless supply of money in that he's bought every item in the game and somehow sold half of it and then rebought every other item in the game, enhanced his cards, and still has money to spare, was like, that's okay. No, don't even bother charming. I'll just throw wads of cash at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like he's putting it all on credit, and like he's gonna leave the party, and like we're gonna be like chased by the debtors, like they're gonna come after us because he's put like us as next to kin or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Money fixes everything with Phil. So he did offer the pay. It all came out of Phil's fund, and we ended up getting a whistle, and the whistle was, I believe, allowing you to, I think it's a consume. I don't think it's a tapper off the top of my head. Or we had it displayed in the playthrough, and it was perfect for anyone who has summons, which old Mark would have liked. A week ago, Mark would have liked on his heavily summon-based character, the Tusks. But yeah.
That's to almost the levels of crazy niche ultimate power item for that class, like that necklace was for the Bleeding Claw, right? Like this whistle that just like it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So.
Probably would have solved a lot of his problems when it came to movement and all that kind of stuff. Oh, the difference being that I got to actually use the necklace that I got for ages.
You got it
at
at
really
the start,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah. So that was it. We paid for the necklace. Otherwise, we could have gained it. Oh, what am I looking at? Where did I put it? Oh, I don't know. I've got it written down different to what I actually have in front of me. I think, yeah, we could have charmed her and just gotten it for free anyway. I think if we had an orchid, actually, and Phil was an orchid, but Phil still doesn't regret his decision.
No, he just threw money at her.
Exactly. We then had a road event 55, so heading towards our scenario for the day, we hear thunder over the horizon. And when we approach, we see what we can only determine was the immediate aftermath of a battle and discover two corpses, one being a Savas and the other was an Aether. We have to decide whether or not we want to loot the bodies or for some reason be concerned that the area might be cursed and we may get punished for doing so.
Did we looted the bodies, didn't we? Like,
Oh, yeah,
pretty much
100%.
as soon as we walked in there. Yeah.
Totally. We totally did. And it came with two symbols on it, right? Two character symbols. And I only recognized one. And I was like, I don't know what the other one is, but I know that none of us are it. And it looks like a staff, right? Since when I was writing the notes, I was like, well, I should probably find out what this is. It wasn't in Gloomhaven, it wasn't in Crimson Skulls, it wasn't in Frosthaven. And I was like, well, what character is this? It was from Jaws.
Oh, is it the enchanter or what are they called?
Void Warden?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Void.
Which,
Oh,
makes sense now because it was Vortex and that. So that was a cool little discovery moment for me. So if we had one of those, we would have been strengthened.
Randomly playing that character, like
I guess that's the thing with Crimson Scales though, being a custom campaign. Although why would you not play the characters that came with it?
No, but it's just also like there's one event. Like this isn't a series of them. There's no guarantee you're gonna have it. It's not even a race. It's a specific class, and it's a class from an expansion to another game.
Exactly. But yeah, we would have gotten strengthened if we had either of those, and we ended up getting cursed. Which
it's fine.
Which
Whatever.
we predicted basically from the text that we were getting. But the other one, it was if we just leave the area, we would have had to discard a card each. So that would have been way worse, especially for you.
Yep. Way worse.
All right, so 20 Midnight Ritual. Continuing on from scenario 18, we meet up with Athen. Athen, who is the keeper of the Great Oak, or the head priest dude. Like he's more senior than me, I believe.
It's like the Pope of the Great Oak.
Yeah, I think so. Not 100% sure.
It's like your boss, right?
Like, no, I think he's a boss, not my
Of
boss.
you.
Well, I think I've made my intentions very clear about how I feel about the Great Oak. So I'm not sure if I'm actually following it.
No, but like you can hate your workplace, but you're still employed by them, right?
I'm not even getting paid.
Well, I mean, that's probably why you hate it so much.
That's true. So we met up with him.
So, yeah,
we gave him the Orb of Embers, and he's pleased. Then he complains that being the keeper of the Great Oak is stressful, and he doesn't like it when things are bad. Like the growing cult that's been stealing his business. But of course, he isn't strong enough to deal with it, do anything about it. So he was like, hey, you guys do it. So we generously offer to let him stay in the comfort of his house so that he can play with his new flame ball whilst we head out to deal with the cult he's upset with. With some half-assed thanks, he also tells us, on top of all of this, to not use violence, as he's a big believer in not looking desperate when seeking assistance, but getting the last word in when it comes to how he would like said assistance. This game has taught me that beggars can be choosers. We leave at nighttime and spot the cult gathering. There's one who looks especially cult leadery, as he has a hood, which is the universal symbol for cultist, but his hood is slightly bigger than the others, and it hides more of his face in the shadow, so he has to be the leader. Yada, 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 kill cult leader, the world's problems will be solved. So the scenario was complete when the cultist is dead, because there was only one. So, can it really be a cult with one cultist?
you just haven't convinced anyone to drink the Kool-Aid, right?
How many? Is there a minimum requirement of cultists to form a cult? Does anyone have this?
Oh, if you like go, I'm gonna make a cult. Hey, Daddy, do you want to join my cult? Like, it's a cult before you join it, right? Like, otherwise you're just like, hey, do you also want to believe in this weird stuff? But if we get some more people, we can call it a cult.
So how many people does it take to make a religion?
I
Don't you have
don't want to
steps?
answer that in fear of like offending people.
Like, that's fair. I was just asking because I have no idea. I'm not religious.
Yeah.
All right.
Not that they're related, cults and religions.
Good point. I'll throw in their Thermomix and CrossFit. Just so we've ticked all the boxes. Calisthenics, there you go.
Yeah.
So the map was the diamond-shaped 2 V tiles put together to form a circuit, and the special rules were that the cultists had a lot of HP. I think for scenario level 4, which we first played it on, it was on 72 health, and then when we played it shortly after that on scenario level 3, by dropping the difficulty down,
spoilers.
We lowered it to 65. So the cultist also has +3 to all its movement abilities and all its attacks, which is pretty spicy. And if it plays a summon card, it will summon a living spirit instead of a living bones. And it doesn't take the damage that normally goes with that card. Right? If the cultist plays a card with a move ability, the first thing it'll do is teleport to one of 3 altars that are spread around the arena to a hex closest to one of us. And then it performs its ability, which usually results in it always moving around the map. And due to the +3 movement, it's usually in range to smack one of us pretty much every time. So it's kind of like, there's bosses that kind of disappear and then they come in from the side and they clip you. And then I think I'm picturing that.
Yep.
This means the groups will basically need to survive the assault from all of the initial living spirits and deep terrors, which there are just so many. And whilst dealing with this guy and dealing with the fact that he may potentially make even more of the living spirits. But he has a giant health pool, chip him down, and don't die. Unless, of course, you've got one of those groups that min-max the one-shot shenanigans, then it'll probably be pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Well, he had no protections, right? Like there was, we've played against some bosses that did phases or did different things. So there wasn't a case of like, if you couldn't do 70 damage in one turn, right, then they just die.
Have we had much of that?
I don't think we've had much of it. I mean, including Frosthaven, there's probably
Frosthaven, yeah, but I'm just looking at Crimson Scales, the phasing.
We had the twin bosses, those two.
Yeah.
We had the dragon that also phased.
That was like a room phase, right? Room 1, once you kill it, it disappears and you see it again in room 3. Yeah, so that's a cool way of doing it.
And didn't we have one recently? We did a boss or a mini boss recently, I feel.
No.
And it was quite good.
Nah.
The end of one of the retirements. What was the end of the beetle retirement?
Oh, the one we loved?
Yeah.
And we can't remember it now?
About it. I can't remember anything about it other than we really liked it.
We really liked it. It was really good.
We were talking about it.
Yeah. Well, it was. I still like it.
Do you remember it?
No, but I still like it.
It's like, that is definitely one of my favorite scenarios. Which scenario was it? I have no idea, and I can't tell you anything about it, but I know that I remember really enjoying it.
But that's a sign of how good it was, is that I'm adamant I loved it, and you loved it too. So that's enough.
Yeah, I suppose that's the same as hating something and not having any idea why you hate it, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's justified, so...
All right, the only changes to the roll call this week was that we lost our tusks, and we played with Mark, who was playing our level 3 ice meteor. A quick rundown of kind of what it does. So it's a medium health, fire, and ice manipulator who plays around the chill and wound conditions. Has ways to increase his abilities if he's either wounded or chilled, and has access to customized element consumptions where the same ability can have 2 different effects depending on which one you want to consume the element on, which I think is unique to the character. I don't think it's been explored. But we will discuss further in the amDirt Diaries after our recap.
Yep.
Anything you want to say before I explain what happened?
No, just I suppose the only other thing I'll say is that like it was a tricky deployment, because we deployed on each side of the diamond, I think, whatever the shape is, right? Like the circuit, the arena, and there's a big gap in the middle that you can't go through, so you have to kind of run around. But there's only 3 spots, so it meant that you're either deploying 3 people on one side and 1 person on the other, or 2 and 2. And considering all of the deep terrors are pretty much in range of those spots with some of their attacks, the start looked very, very hairy, and we'll talk about how it went. But that's probably something to consider, how and why we made the decisions we did.
Totally.
But it was interesting because I don't think I can't really remember something like this where at the start there was like it really mattered where you started. Normally it's like here's a clump of starting hexes, just you put you where you want to go based on what you want to do.
Everyone by
right?
default
Whereas
already
this,
has an idea of where they want to start, just like that.
yeah. Whereas this one was a bit different based on what we had. Like you had to make changes and stuff like that. So yeah, it was interesting. Anyway, let's hear the recap.
All right, how it went. So the party is split, right, as you explained, with Daddy and Phil on the eastern side, Gaz and Mark on the west wing. Phil requests Daddy go earlier in initiative, which is a fair request to ask of his clearly tankier 10 HP shieldless friend. But Daddy responds by holding up a couple of fleas and says, no bueno. The board as it stands from round 1 has 7 deep terrors, 3 of which are elite, 4 elite spirits, elite living spirits, and of course the cultist who basically can teleport across the map and has a +3 to all its attacks. Gaz estimates that turn 1 is going to be fairly brutal. And right on call, the monsters do the following. So the cultist goes first and it's hitting for 5, so far it's not too bad. The 4 living spirits do a move 4, attack 4 at range 4, which is pretty bad. And to top it all off, the Deep Terrors pull their range 6, attack 2/3, depending on normal or elite, summon another Deep Terror. This means all 7 will land a hit, as there is no way to avoid summoning the only 3 missing from the board, and this just seems like a little bit of bad luck. Speaking of bad luck, the cultist immediately runs up the field for its attack 5 and pulls a +2. And then on Gaz's turn, not only does he pull the curse from the event that we got on his first draw, but the next monster to activate attacks him for 4 and top decks the crit, making this probably one of the worst starts in Haven history. We're talking 3 activations. Cultist, Gaz, Spirit. So Gaz has already burnt a card. Phil asks Gaz if this result will fuck up his rotation, to which Gaz mentions he doesn't know what his rotation is. Luckily for not Gaz, the monsters pull -2s and -1s against the rest of the party, something skill issue. Shortly after this amazing start, we help ourselves to the curse deck, watch Phil take another 7, attack 7, and top it all off with a double attack from the 10 Deep Terrors. After a 2-hour deliberation discussing whether or not it would be a good idea to restart, we do exactly that. The boys put their heads together and came up with a plan to try and survive the onslaught, and it involved leaving Gaz on his own to fend for himself. Teamwork. Gaz assures us he has the movement to join us shortly into the scenario, and the first round was already going up much better, with Phil getting to keep his DJ disc on the card he wanted, and Gaz only almost having to burn a card as opposed to actually burning a card. A quite mortally wounded Gaz crawls up to the rest of the party and starts begging for heals, trying to convince the group that 2 out of 14 HP isn't enough for him. And I now present this week's amDirt Cuckening, sponsored by Gaz. Just joking. No, this week Daddy, who probably had a range of things he could have done, had so much tunnel vision on working around his spiritual gain that he just couldn't see anything in dire need of assistance. And just to add to that, you all laughed at me. You all laughed at me when I would use Oak's Embrace to half your incoming damage and no one bloody needed it, making it a dead card. No, but in all seriousness, I will admit this was the first time in the history of ever that I cucked Gaz. So I guess that's 1 for me now. Gaz proceeds to get fucked again by the living spirits and calls Daddy out without actually naming him, and everyone avoids eye contact, which, with each other, and it's just getting a bit awkward. Especially when I'm writing this, as I'm editing it at the same time. He just said, whilst choosing a card, I guess that it doesn't really matter, because I'm going to be dead soon. Like it was lifted right out of the book of famous quotes by Mark. Anyway, that's enough getting sidetracked. Daddy cucks Gaz. Straight after Gaz has his turn, the Deep Terrors activate with their huge 5-hex schlongs and hits everyone except for Gaz, who narrowly manages to limp out of the way. To add insult to injury, the first attack goes to Daddy with disadvantage and 2 curses immediately come out. Playthrough Daddy is feeling real bad right now, and the group engage in some awkward laughter. Mark's next on the Shalong train, and he takes the natural null. And then Phil shrugs off his damage with gemstone shenanigans, and that concludes the opener. At round 3, Mark grabs his quote book back from Gaz and calmly announces he's going to book his battle goal and adds, but I don't think I care at this point. Not realizing he booked his battle goal in the first round. Editing Daddy found this amusing. He just said maybe not. So I guess we'll find out later if he thinks he got it. The group begins to stabilize by taking out deep terrors and living spirits, who for some reason are way deadlier than I have ever seen them, constantly pumping out multiple targeted big hits, including 2 rounds where they move and attack all targets within range, which they did several times, and Gaz was just getting absolutely pummeled. Daddy turns into a Stampot, gifting Gaz 6 cards from his discard, trying to bring him back into the game somewhat, and Phil the Healer tried to get his HP back with an item. But it was a scary game for Gaz, who dreaded basically every single card flip, whether it was a monster ability or amD. Still sensing his impending demise, Gaz plays around with a few burn cards, including a very big juicy attack 6, which he does in fact crit on, which completely lifts his spirits, and the party start taking out the living spirits and deep terrors, especially with some great cleaving by Phil. The cultist continues to fly around the map like a blink blade, but Gaz manages to poison it twice, and by round 9 the group start bursting it down, signaling the end of this incredibly short, yet long feeling scenario. Alright, let's get into our discussion on this particular one. I want to just quickly say, under the pump from round 1, this is rare, would you say?
But Crimson Scales, Gloomhaven, yeah. I think that Frosthaven made a habit of it.
Yeah, you're right, actually. It's a good point. There are scenarios where it would not allow you to prep, and we talked about no prep rounds from Raven and the Roost, and there was a bit of a trend happening there. But I think, yeah, there's a history of feeling like you're fairly safe and you can do whatever you want at the beginning, and this was one of the rare scenarios in Crimson Scales where right from the get-go, like, there was really no way of avoiding it, which was interesting.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, there was so much potential damage on the table before the card flip that there wasn't a lot to do to negate it, I think, other than going really, like, obviously things like early invis would be fine, but the problem is that someone's going to take the hits.
Correct.
So, and that's where, even being on the side when we first started with Mark, it's like there wasn't a thing I could do to be like, oh, well, I'll go over there. I'm like, oh, that just means Mark gets hit 4 times.
Yep.
So you're not really...
You're at the mercy of the card draw, really, from from an initiative point of view, and also from, are they going to go and use their rest cards, or are they going to hit multiple people for... Or are they going to have the one Deep Terror summon card? There's only one. And are they going to draw that round 1, right?
Yeah, I would have been interested to see, because we did drop the difficulty down by 1 when we played the second time, back down to 0, right? So I'd be interested to see how we would have gone if they'd drawn the summon Deep Terror card in that run as well. Because that obviously made it harder, right? Like, instantly we had 3 more Deep Terrors, which is just gross. And it's funny because, like, I don't know, like a month ago, maybe less, I remember people talking in our Discord, and I was like, I reckon Deep Terrors are underrated for being like one of the most gross or potentially gross monsters in the game, right? Because they have Retaliate, they ranged, and they are annoying, and they can also multiply, like, and then since that point, we just keep fighting them and they keep fucking it. Like,
yeah,
yeah. But anyway, yes, I think that starting room, definitely a lot of potential for damage, and you really do come down to the RNG-ish. Like, you can mitigate it to a degree, but... Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. I was thinking about this. It's kind of like, there's a world where I start with the Leaf character with Weaken Will, which is the disadvantage, which I, in hindsight, definitely should have done. It wouldn't have actually messed me up, but I was so focused on what I was trying to do that I really wasn't I didn't want to mess it up in case by messing up what I was trying to do, it would dishearten me from attempting it again. Because that's happened before when I've cracked the Sads in Frosthaven because something didn't work and I've just kind of had a defeatist attitude around it. So I was trying to avoid that at, your expense. But at the same time, let's say I was Bleeding Claw, right? Not much changes in the beginning of that. If anything, I go invisible. I kill something, I go invisible, and that's bad for Phil. Or I'm on the Vortex. Like, the party composition, I think a lot of the times is not going to make that first room necessarily any easier. It's very heavily going to be depicted by monster ability draw.
Yeah. I think we like if we were to look through like pick a point in all of our Crimson Scales play and like what combination we had, not like draft your perfect team, but just like at a point if we did this scenario, I feel like there is a point where my Beetle was tanky enough to take the hits. You were still on Bleeding Claw. Three of us start on one side. I take all the hits for that side, and you go invis first turn on Bleeding Claw. So you basically we can ignore half the map, right? And then I take the hits to allow everyone else to do what they want. But that's super niche, right? And I reckon there was only maybe one or two scenarios where that all would work, where you had your invis, I had the tankiness to do that, and blah blah blah, right? So yeah, you're 100% right. Like outside of very kind of unique circumstances, at least in our run so far, I'm sure that there's other combinations you could go to, but you really are kind of at the mercy of the draw and maybe just trying to play either really defensively in that first turn,
Mm.
like lots of shields, lots of like disadvantage, things like that, or hyper aggressive, right? Like everyone goes really quick and just legs it to one side of the map and tries to kill, say, two of the deep terrors before they get a turn.
Yeah, it's almost worth a hard hitting burn initially to reduce the numbers.
100%. And we kind of talked about that briefly going into the second run is like, is this just a like burn the boss? Like, is this all we ignore everything else, just jump onto the boss and just absolutely go to town? And I think no, but in hindsight now, I think maybe burning some cards early to clear the map would be good.
Mm.
Like if you had some really kind of high impact burn cards that didn't require much setup, and you could remove elite deep terror, right?
Yep.
Or the two deep terrors up on the edge that were normal, like blow both of those up. I feel like that would be a value card in this type of starting scenario.
Yeah. I think this. What did you think of the scenario as a whole?
Um, Yeah, look, it was okay. I didn't dislike it. I had a rough time. And I don't think that really tainted my feelings one way or the other because I feel like a lot of that was just my like choice of like cards and all that kind of stuff. So that was on me. But I just the potential of this one, I think. All right, I've got two answers. One, I thought it was fine. All right. Secondly, I think it's potentially bad because it could go really bad. Right? Um, you could either one have really gross turns by so many mobs being in range early on, and that just makes it not fun.
Mm.
Or B, you could just have a combination of characters that just deletes the boss in 3 turns, and that's also not fun. So
Mm.
there's like it has the extremes of this scenario both maybe lead it to just not being a very interesting scenario. I think we landed somewhere in the middle, which is good, right? We had normal turns and we played through, we killed most of the monsters and then we killed the boss. So we probably tackled it normally, but I think what we had is probably the most optimal kind of level of enjoyment you're going to get.
It's a really interesting point because I wasn't sure how I felt about this, but I'm in the double mind set as well. What I appreciate from it is, and you've done a really good job of reminding me of Frosthaven, and I'm thinking of Raven's Roost and some of those scenarios where we talked about no prep, right? Because we all like to fall into the pattern of getting a character ramping and getting everything sorted. And those annoying scenarios weren't letting us do it, which conversation and topics were coming up about, oh, they're not letting us do the thing we want to do. But also it breaks that monotony. It breaks the flow and gets the problem solving aspect of the teamwork coming together, which I feel has been lacking lately, at least initially. Because if it was like any other scenario, that's how I built my leaf. It was to tackle any other scenario, the way we've been doing it. The last few have been clear room, next room, clear room, next room, do goal, right? So I was like, and they've been hitting like 25 rounds a lot of the time. So I was like, that's cool. I've got so much time to play with spiritual gains and, and really elongate, my life and be effective, for the mid to late game as well with all the cards and prayers and all that kind of stuff. This was over real fast. It took a complete change of our strategy. And I appreciated that. It wasn't a run of the mill like everything we've had lately, especially the last few weeks. The last few weeks have all been similar feeling, right? In that we all can take our time, we can all do our prep, we can all ease into the scenario. And here I am going, Oaks Embrace, everyone, within range 3, you get half down. Oh, lol, it's not happening again, right? It's not because we were just, I don't know, efficient, and we got into that room clearing mentality. This scenario threw us a massive curveball, and I appreciate the fact that it did. But I do think I agree that it's maybe not that good from a swinginess point of view. But maybe that's part of the threat, right? The initial threat, where you know it can be that kind of swingy, so then you have to plan around it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I don't know. I think you could use this design and tweak it slightly so that you reduce the amount of swinginess. But I don't know. Maybe it doesn't need it because its uniqueness in maybe the Crimson Scale space is that you are just under the pump, right? And when not a lot of scenarios are doing that so far that we've experienced, maybe that's enough for it to be different, right? And the idea is that people burn cards on health, burn cards on killing monsters, so that then when you get to the boss, you don't have all your like uber burn cards to drop on the boss. So therefore, maybe you can't just one shot him. So yeah, that's potentially one of the design ways. But yeah, I think it's definitely it was a bit different.
It
From
was. It
CS.
was. And I think that when you say, you know, the things that we potentially should have done regarding the burning and all of that, I like now having that discussion over it because it wasn't something that we had thought up at the time. I think, you know, I was still set on doing what I was trying to do. Phil was still doing what he was trying to do. We still have our prep thing, and then, you know, everyone else is getting massacred on the other side. So it's made me realize that, yeah, there are times that we need to reevaluate and make those sacrifices again, which I just haven't felt that in a long time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So no, but yeah, overall, I don't know, 5 out of 10.
Yeah. The admin side of it made a reappearance. There was so many multi-targets and all of that kind of stuff. I think that's also an aspect we haven't had the feel for a while. Probably not since the Beetle Unlock scenario towards the end of the Galaxy, where we had all those black imps doing multi-attacks and all of that. So it was nice to have admin back to that extent.
It's lucky it was short, right? Like if that had been a 15, 20 round scenario that also had that level of admin through the whole thing, not only would it have been extremely hard, but like I feel like then it would have been grinding. Like maybe we don't hate the admin in this because we didn't have to do it for that long.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. What about living spirits? I feel like we've always not necessarily had them as very threatening. I don't remember where they sat on our monster tier list, but this scenario has kind of just made me at
Like
least
S
bump
tier?
them up a notch because... Is it because we've always had ways of insta-giving them? And we've always been like, yeah, every party's always going to have pure damage. Every party's always going to have ways of dealing with them. So they're really nothing, kind of like flame demons. But we didn't really have an answer.
Yeah, I think there's an aspect of that. I mean, but we've talked about that being uh if you have pure damage and or lots of pierce, then monsters like this are just super easy, right? That's it. But when you don't, and if we're not extremely at the don't because we do have a little bit of wound. Phil's got a lot of pierce. I've got a little bit of pierce. So like we're
I've
not
got Pierce.
terrible at that. Yeah, yeah, you do as well. Yeah. So we're not terrible at that, which shows it wasn't that bad. But there's just the damage output was insane.
It's the multi-targets that caught me off because I don't remember that.
I don't remember like attack for everything within range like 4. Like that's just crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Like I think that they fall into the same thing as like flame demons, is that like they can be very gross sometimes. Mostly they're fine.
All right. Well, I think that just I'm going to bring in the diaries a little bit into this because a lot of it's going to play with what I was trying to do with spiritual gains and I mentioned in the playthrough of what I was trying to do with it and how the scenario, it was like I picked the worst scenario to attempt this on. It was completely unnecessary. Like, I still could have played the way I did. I didn't need to try. Spiritual gains, from what I can see, is a great way to elongate your own stamina and give you a lot more control, especially on the mid to late game when you've got the luxury of long rests and not losing cards and you can cycle the same cards and all of that kind of stuff. In a kill this ASAP scenario, which I didn't really identify, and I don't know why I didn't. I think it's because of last week and the week before all hitting the 20 plus rounds. So yeah, I will keep going with it, but I need to be better at assessing whether or not the scenario is going to last that long.
Yeah, I don't, I'm interested to hear what other thoughts you've got from a diarist perspective, but I don't think that you playing the way you did necessarily was bad. Like dropping some of the cards you did to bring other cards that made you were basically more offensive,
Mm,
I think worked quite well.
mm,
And they're definitely, I mean, at the start, right? Like you've really got two options for this scenario. At the start, you can either play really defensively and protect everyone for ages and then just kind of like survive that wave and grind things out, or you can just go like very offensive. And I think you not having the defensive cards meant that you played more offensive and therefore you got down some of those spirits with some of your Pierce and blah blah blah. So like I don't know if it was a bad way of doing it. I definitely agree with you of like the spiritual gains like long game plan where I think after the scenario you're like, I could have long rested like 4 times and not lost a card. It's
yep.
like, wow, you could have survived for a really long
I'm
time.
talking to your corpse as I'm doing this. Like, wow, I
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
guess you have.
I'm basically invincible. So I do agree. Like from that longevity perspective, you probably didn't need to do that. So maybe, but in saying that, like it, it's weird because you playing into that meant that you dropped some of your defensive cards and went more offensive, which I think was good for it. So it's this kind of weird, like you didn't need the longevity, but you definitely did need the offense. So it kind of still worked.
Yep.
And it was just glaring because I wasn't on the beetle. Like I know I wasn't last week either, but like we haven't needed the half damage thing. We haven't needed the heals or the prayers anywhere near as much. The disadvantage even for the most part has been like a nice to have, right? Because at the end of the day it didn't matter because I was just like I have 32 health and like so much shields and ward and everything. Like I'll just stand there, right, for 3 rounds and not die. So it
Mm,
didn't matter. And then
mm,
suddenly now that that's not there,
yeah.
I feel like it's a case of like and then we got a hyper aggressive scenario.
Yep.
It made it even more obvious that we just don't have anyone to soak damage.
Yeah. It
So
was
yeah,
also
I
hard
think it was
because
just
the player
yeah,
makeup is also not friendly. Not so much a friendly thing, but it's like harder, and it goes back to what you said at the start. The spawn points being separate. There's one in a 4-player game, you can never have all four on the same side, which means that someone's always going to be on their own. So even if we were to play some defensive cards or try to, help that particular person, there was a reach aspect where we wouldn't be able to even, I couldn't get them with Noak's Embrace or anything like that. Yeah, so I think it's a rough 4-player scenario. But it'd be curious to see how it scales. Like 2 people, you start on one side together, right? Or you
yeah.
play 2 separate, right?
Assume you do. Yeah, 2 and 3 would be interesting. So, but no, look, I hear what you're saying. I just don't think that I don't think it was as bad as you're making it out to be in regards to the wrong scenario to do it. It was just very interesting. Like coincidentally, the polar opposite to most of the scenarios we did is when you chose to change your style.
Yep.
Like unintendedly was like funny. Like
Mm,
or ironic. I think this might be irony, right? In some way, like everything's taking too long and I need more sustain, so I'll go that build, and then we get like a rocket red burst like scenario. So
yep.
yeah, I don't know.
Yep. How are you going with I think this is your second now. Have you learned anything?
Yeah, I have. No, it went okay. I was less effective with the shape changing backwards and forwards because I think I only got a couple, which meant that I still am a couple off my milestone, which is annoying. Um, Losing a couple of cards early definitely didn't help because they have symbols on them that I'd need. But yeah, mostly it was fine. Started trying to use my hand items a little bit more. Um, like one of the cards I've got, because we got the free enhancement. So at the end of the last scenario, we all got to enhance like 100 gold worth of enhancements or something like that.
Except for Mark.
Except for Mark. Yep. Um, and I think I put like a +1 on 2 of my attacks, but one of the ones on my attack is like, I don't know, it's like an attack 3. If I use an item, it becomes +2, but I put +1 on that. So now it's like attack 6. Like, it's pretty crazy just to be like,
Is that the one you crit on?
no, that's one of my burn cards. It's like an attack 5, range 5.
So that one's not a
Um,
burn.
No, the hand item one isn't. Like, yeah, it's just attack. I do need to flip a use a hand item when I do it to get the +2. Um, but yeah, just being able to do that, which is kind of cool. But like, I have never really had a character, especially on a level like 2, that has the ability to just do like, hey, just do attack 6, whatever. But at the same point, it doesn't not tied to any like form, which is good, I guess, for flexibility. It also doesn't shift me into any form, which is kind of not great if you want to move around. But it's also like boring. I mean, it just says attack 6. Like it ignores all of the text on all the other cards in the character mat. Just just do 6 damage.
Yeah, but normally attack 6 are tied to a burn.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. It's like a really good card, but it's like any character could have this.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
it is
doesn't play
tied
with
to
the
the hand
rest.
item thing, which is a bit of a theme. But yeah, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, look, it went okay. I
What
think I'm still learning.
are you finding any restrictions with the puzzle of swapping characters and finding where you're not running into that range geminate melee geminate issue?
No, not necessarily restrictions. It's been interesting as in like I feel if there are like so for example, we talked about living spirits have the shields, right? And I have maybe one card that I can get pierce from, but I also have a couple others in green form that just do a damage to either an adjacent or everyone adjacent. So when I've got those cards and in certain situations, it's kind of like it creates this mini puzzle. Like it's like Final Fantasy, right? Like you're walking along and it goes into a fight. Like in mid scenario, I find there's all these like mini puzzles for me to solve. It's like, oh, okay, I need to do pure damage. I'm in Pink Ranger form. How do I get from Pink Ranger form to the thing and then into Green Ranger form and then do the extra damage, like so that I can do it? And I like that because if I don't, I'm not just like, oh, I can't have a turn. It's just
Mm,
like, oh, I'll do something else. But it's kind of like I like that. It's cool.
that's
The only
good.
thing is it takes a little bit of time, and I'm also very wary of like just drawing out the turns. So I kind of have to like do that fight. Imagine Final Fantasy, but if like everyone's like standing over your shoulder looking at you, like I'll just retreat. Don't worry, I'll retreat. So yeah, I have to be really conscious that I'm not doing that every turn, and just when I can see something. So yeah, the better I get at internalizing, kind of like what are my cards? Okay, cool. I know I've got a card that would be effective there. So then I just have to sift through and go like, can I do it? Yes or no? No, I can't. Okay, well, I'll go just do something else. So.
Okay. Are you finding that you can play with all three range of forms, or that you do have to concentrate on one or two?
No, I think I can play with all three. I just have not been playing with some of them because they don't do like blue doesn't seem to do much at the moment.
Is blue like
Although
a
I think maybe
tankier one, or
I think so. Yeah, yeah. Although I got kind of stuck in that because I was running out of cards and it does have the a little heal on the bottom of one of the cards, so it's kind of like a good one for that. But it's only heal 2, so it's yeah. Anyway, so yeah, mostly green and the pink ranger seem to be the most offensive ones.
yeah, okay.
But yeah, I need to have a look through my other cards, and now I'll get my level 3 card as well, which I think. I think the level 3 card just means that you use items more.
Nice.
Although,
That's what you're doing,
although
right?
yeah, yeah, I know. Although maybe I didn't pick that. Like, because I remember looking through the level up, and I was just like, oh, this one seems the best, but it also seems boring.
I mean, you don't
Um,
have to pick it, right? Are you surely this scenario, like we're about to play in a couple of hours, you're going to hit level 4?
yeah, yeah, I will hit level 4. Yeah.
So there's a world where you don't lock in your 3 yet.
That's true. I don't lock in my level 3, or I could just do what everyone keeps telling us that we're stupid for not doing and just look at the next cards, right? Um, yeah, I think the option was it's either an attack 3 if I use an item, it adds disarm. So like really easy access to disarm,
Mm.
and then it swaps to pink or blue. Um, or the other option is the bottom of the other card, which I think is the one I took. Is initiative 15 because I struggled to go pretty quickly. It's a
You
heal 2 range 2.
did.
Yeah, so it's a heal 2 range 2 in power, but it also if I'm Green Ranger I get to attack. So it's interesting. I think I've chosen that one because I feel like that one will be more interesting rather
Okay.
than just like just hit something and uh disarm it. At least this one has it cares what form you're in,
Yeah, okay.
which I find makes it more interesting. I mean, everyone will tell me that I'm making the wrong decision because
Probably.
just disarming stuff is ridiculously powerful. But like, yeah, sure.
Finally, XP. Does it feel like it is a good XP gainer? Didn't really struggle with that. A lot of hoops for no XP, or do barely anything and get 5.
It's no chained helm, nor is it a vortex.
Yeah, okay.
So it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think it
That's good.
feels more. Yeah, it feels more like the Galaxy, where you play your cards, and if you have organized your shit right, then you will get an XP. Right. So be in the right form, get an XP. Things like that.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about Mark's new character, the Ice Meteor. Well, what did you think?
He played it a lot better than I thought it was going to go. I thought it was going to get just absolutely pummeled, not be able to move because it was chilled, and he'd sit there in a corner going like, "I've got this wound. Why won't someone get this wound off me?"
Mm.
But he figured out a couple of quick combos. Then he was doing really well with it. Like I was very impressed. Lots of heals. Had the ability to do bit of punchy stuff. Threw some chill around, some wounds. Like I don't know. First impressions, I was quite I was quite impressed by it. I
I
thought
was
he
very
did well.
impressed too. I think what I'm surprised with is that when we did the unboxing, we didn't really talk about like I guess, a tankier side of what it, can do. It's got medium health. Yeah, it had a couple of, retaliate cards and shields and all that kind of stuff. But I think we were so focused on what else it can bring, maybe with set attacks. It looks like Mark is playing it a little bit more on a brawly kind of a tanky side. And it took me by surprise with how much damage it actually mitigated, but also how much sustain it had. It got itself back up through some of the cards. I can't remember what they were, but there's the one where at the start of his turn, heal itself if it had wound, that, and then apply wound to itself. Like he was, when he did get chunked down, and I think he's rocking a splint mail at the moment, which is also giving him 4 instances of shield 1. But when he did go down, he was managing to get back up to, mid to whatever health, surprisingly effectively. And I was very impressed.
Yeah, yeah, it kind of reminded me a little bit of a combination between the meteor from Frosthaven and the shackles from Frosthaven. Like, it didn't want to do it. Like, it's a ability to yo-yo its health. Right. Like, I think that was something that I didn't realize, and I know both you and Mark played the shackles. But I was always so surprised. Be like, I heal myself for 8. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then you take a bunch of damage. You're like, I heal myself for 4. And then I heal myself for 2. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, you just keep healing yourself. Like, this is insane. But not as in, oh, all my turns are just sitting here healing myself. It's just like these really big burst heals, which is kind of cool. But also, yeah, it had the ability to throw out a bunch of status effects and do that. So, yeah, it was. It was very, the sustain was very good. Mark did a great job first up on a very hard scenario.
Totally.
Like, you could completely be forgiven on this scenario on a first like new character just to be like, not only did I die, but I didn't do anything.
Yep.
Right? Which is kind of what I did.
Yeah, a little bit. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say the elements. He's just rocking 2 elements, right? So he's got 2 elements, and he managed to have the elements up for when he needed it, which actually surprised me. He had no problems with managing those with both, which was really cool to see. Sometimes with a new character, that's the struggle.
Yeah, 100%. It seems like because I make fire, I don't use any elements, but I make fire on a couple of things. Like I make fire, leaf, and wind. I think are the 3 I make. But I make fire on a couple of my cards. But he also has, I think, a bunch of turns anything into fire or ice. So I think it's working quite well. And that me throwing up these random elements is actually going to feed into him a little bit, which is kind of really cool, which I'm glad. Because otherwise it's like I'm just making these elements for no reason. He should be able to feed off them a bit, which is cool.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with the grass, actually, because I don't really use a lot of that, but I am making that so he can help himself, basically. And yeah, you're still not making elements that I need, so that's cool. That's very cool. What I'm looking forward to is on the odd instances that I do bring a couple of, heal cards and all of that, which I do have. They're there. I just didn't use them in that particular one. That there, I'll see Mark running around with a wound on him, and I'll be like, "Don't worry, I got you." And he'd be like, "No, please leave it." And I'll be like, "No, mate, you need. I don't want that ticking away. I'm a healer." I'm on auto attack. I'm gonna heal you and get rid of that wound and completely ruin it for him. We'll see
That's
if I can
it.
do
Yeah,
that.
bars are low, and you've got all the status effects. I need to heal you. Sorry, that's I got heal bot, and it's just telling me heal now.
Yep. No, I'm very excited. I actually like our lineup. I actually like it a lot, and I'm excited to see kind of where it goes from here.
I like our lineup because I feel this is more of a we all just have a bunch of damage, and I know we were just talking about how the ice meteor can potentially looks like it play a little bit tanky-ish. Um, but we don't have a bleeding claw that just deletes anything, right? We don't have a beetle that just stands there and tank, or even a really high impact like the chain helm that's just like I'm gonna go in the middle and just you know do a bunch of damage, self like we don't have that ultimate character at the moment where you're just like, it's all right, just leave that, they'll carry it, and everyone else just run around doing what you do. I think Phil is probably the closest to that because he has a very high damage threshold, and I think the floor is quite high with the damage with him. Like he just does consistent damage,
Mm,
but he can drop off really quickly if he gets hit a bunch because he loses all these things. So he also has to be a little bit careful like that. So I like our party as well because I feel like we're gonna have to play well, and I'm really keen to bump the difficulty back up to +1 because I think that's going to be a really important piece in making us all feel like we can do stuff.
yeah.
Because there's a very, very big chance that if we play on 0, we fall back into that same situation we had 5 weeks ago where shit just dies too
Yep.
quickly. And you're like, well, it doesn't matter what cards I've got because it's just to play something and everything's dead.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to, slightly increased difficulty again. But us all having to think through our abilities, positioning, stuff like that.
Yep. No, I like that as well. I forgot to mention Ormi. How would he go in that? He's dead, right?
I think he's dead straight away, like before anyone has a turn. I mean, in fact, you bring Ormi so you don't die.
That's a great point. I like that. So it's a good Ormi scenario.
It's a good for us Ormi scenario. This is one of those ones if people were playing, if this was a Frosthaven scenario, this would be one of those ones that would be worthy of a Reddit post if they drew Ormi on that one. They'll be like, so especially if they didn't know anything about, right? Like we were when we discovered Ormi. Like, what's this? This is crazy and amazing. Like, what a cool feature. This would be worthy of a post to be put on there and say, so we got this card Ormi, and then we got the most disgusting scenario that's possibly in the game. I can't even believe, and I can imagine a rant. That's
Yep.
how bad this scenario would be for Ormi.
Yep. I like it. All right. We have time for maybe a condition or two.
Do we? Do we?
I think so.
I think we need to. We might need to.
I'm gonna go tell Matt Damon he's not gonna feature today.
Yeah, we can bump Matt Damon to put the conditions on.
That's right. All right, let's cover one to begin with. I'm going down basically a list that I've had for a couple of weeks now, and it's immobilize. So, immobilize, is it good for the game? Is it bad for the
Yes.
game?
Good for the game.
Why?
Because it can impact the game without making, without just flat making things
Trivializing it.
irrelevant. Yeah, trivializing. Yeah, and it can in some situations. Like you can get immobilized and go, I can't do anything with my cards, but that sucks. But that's not the same as stun, where you're literally like, well, it doesn't matter what my cards say. The game says I'm not allowed to do anything. Right. And also, I think that has interesting tactical uses as a offensive negative ability. So, unlike wound or poison, which is just okay, this will make more damage happen.
Yep.
Immobilize can be really interesting, and I feel it gets put on cards in an interesting way. Except most of the time, they don't get used.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, actually. A lot of the times they're on like a bottom action, and there's some AoE effect, but usually you can't move as a result of it. But then it happens on some of these close combat, characters.
I think that there's also the other side of things of like stopping range characters, monsters moving away.
Mm.
Like, I love that this is one of those things that has multiple different uses. It's like, well, one, you can use it to throw out on melee monsters that mean that, hey, that's kind of out of the fight for this round.
Correct. It's like a heal,
Or
which is another way of thinking about it. You're saving, like, it's a heal 4 in some instances.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And then there's the other side of things, which is, or you're throwing it on things so they can't move, which we don't use often. But imagine if you are a character that wants things next to you, having these imps like just take one step away every turn is a pain in the ass.
Which then makes it a
But
muddle, right? Yeah.
yeah,
I'm just like, it's almost like you've got the status effect, but if you look outside the box, it's a multifaceted use case that has a range of different effects, from preventing damage taken to also making it so that an enemy has disadvantage on an attack, on you. And that's cool to have multiple dimensions instead of being
yeah, like
broken.
I know on Beetle I had a bottom action that was like an AoE attack that only hit for one, but it immobilized. So I think like I didn't make use of it a lot, but the times that I wanted to was like if I get myself in position next to things that were ranged, I hit them all and immobilize them, and then if I throw retaliate up, they are going to trigger the retaliate, but also I get to punch them. So yeah, I think the condition having both uh, defensive but also potentially offensive capabilities as well is an interesting dynamic, and I think it's a good one to have in the game.
I like that it also is heightened quite dramatically depending on the type of scenario goal. So if you've got an escape scenario and you've got a whole bunch of ancient artillery in the last room or anything else that can immobilize, the fear factor of that coming in when everyone's down to that, the last couple of cards, how impactful that could be. It's not necessarily the raw damage. You've got the health to get out, but if they immobilize, you are screwed. And I think in those, it's the most well done from a fear factor from a player point of view.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think that like immobilize fits in this space. Like I compare mobilize, and we haven't done them yet, but we'll talk about it later. Like next to disarm and stun, right? There, like it means that one type of your action ability can't be done, or in the case of stun, nothing can be done. The difference is that the movement piece is usually tactical. Okay, and while I've said before, I feel like the movement component of the game is the most boring. I generally mean the long movement piece. The tactical movement is amazing. I think the small 2 or 3 or 4 hexes around where you are and how the fight manipulates around that, I think is actually quite fascinating, and I really like it. It's you have to move 10 hexes, so spend the next 3 turns doing that. I think that part sucks. The thing is that immobilize limits your ability to play that tactical game or escape, right?
Are you talking about having it on you? Like
Yeah,
receiving it?
having it on you. Yeah, exactly. On it as a negative condition. Whereas the disarm just means you don't get to have fun, and stun just means you don't get to do anything. So it's different. Like, you know what I mean? Like, immobilize feels like it's kind of fair. Because you're like, oh no, this came at the worst time, and now things are going to be harder. Whereas the time means, do I have a non-attack card to play? No, I don't. Whatever, I just won't do anything, right? And I know that can happen with immobilized, like, I don't have a range card, so I can't do anything. But like again, it's just this idea of like, it's more a tactical disadvantage rather than just like a skip a turn.
Yeah. And I think something that I don't know if we experienced it much on, I think you might have on the Beetle, but Immobilize is also probably really, really good on Retaliate characters. I don't remember if the Chain Helm had it either, but when you were up there and right in their face, forcing them to hit you if they're ranged or melee by being there, yeah, they kind of go hand in hand.
Well, the Chain Helm had Shackle, right?
Yeah.
Which was I think that's the idea of like at least just pick one thing that has to be stuck to you.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, but no, I agree. Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. Where I think it's the sole scariest common ability. Not a lot of things have throw stun out that, based on the scenario, can make you go like, oh, like we're fine as long as this type of card doesn't come up.
Yeah. Because it could actually stop a whole party, not necessarily the whole individual party. But if it's an escape and everyone needs to, and if anyone exhausts that, we're all holding our breath for the draw, because if it hits you with it and you can't get out, it's going to mess. It's the scenario, right? All of a sudden,
Well,
everyone's invested in it.
well, that happened to you in one of our Frosthaven scenarios, right? Like the escape mirror one. Me and Phil were on one side. I think we were playing 3-player that week. Me and Phil were on one side, and you were on the other side escaping. And there were the dogs, and you were like,
That's
"Okay, cool."
right.
And right, and they generally go really fast, but one of their really fast cards, I think, is immobilize. And it immobilized you, and so we were, and it was escape, and you were the one that had to escape, right? Because
And
you
I
had
probably would have known that and been playing like a burn movement or something, but they're going before me.
Yep. And so I think you did get immobilized and you did take a chunk of damage, but we managed to get through the next turn, in which case then you were able to go. But like that's one of those things that like it doesn't pop up all the time, but the fear of it makes you change the way you play. And I think it's a positive thing because I don't think that doesn't get called out for wound or poison, which I only using those two because we've talked about them, right? You don't be like, oh, I mean, and it can maybe with the imps and stuff where they do lots of multi attacks. I hope they don't draw their poison card, but like generally, it's just like a health thing. So yeah.
Is there I think I did this for the last two. Is there a immobilized centric character where it's their thing? And probably the easiest one's the chain helm with the shackle, but it's a bit different, right? Off the top of my head, I can't. I think a lot of characters have access to a decent immobilize feature of their kit, but no one's really built around it. Where if them,
No.
I vaguely remember either a meteor now. It was either meteor or shackles, but it was something about you could I think you can make the hazardous terrain immobilize, and if they're on there, they take damage when you play the card. Oh, I honestly can't remember, but that's now triggering it as an interesting thing now. No, I can't
Yeah,
remember.
I think I can't think of one that like cares about immobilize specifically as a character design outside of maybe one or two cards. But I like the idea. I like the there have been a couple of cards. I can't remember which character it was, but like um it throws out immobilize to everyone, and then everyone with immobilize takes damage. Maybe like a shards card. So there's been a few cards I think over different classes that do care specifically about mobilize, not just for stopping people moving around. But yeah, it could be interesting to see a class kind of more based around it.
Yeah. I think I like
So,
the fact that with immobilize and the follow up, I'm not sure if we'll cover it or not. Disarm, that they're not game breaking to the point where they can be exploited the same way that like poison and wound. You see a lot more poison and wound abilities. You don't see as many immobilize and disarm abilities because they change it way too much, and that's probably a good thing. But also, there's no way of removing disarm and immobilize. Unless there should be a really heavy way of doing it. 3 cards from your discard pile into your burn pile removes a disarm or an immobilize.
well, I mean that's why a cure potion it exists, right? Is that cure potion is like the worst potion you could possibly take until you are stunned, immobilized, or disarmed on a turn that you want to not be stunned, immobilized, and disarmed, and then it's the best potion in the game. So it's interesting like that. I don't mind those type of items, but I also think those type of status effects are good for that. So yeah,
Yeah. Do you want to wrap it up?
yeah, you don't want to do disarm.
Oh, do you have time?
Sure, why not? Nah. Let's bump it. We'll talk about disarm next week.
All right. No worries. Well, we will wrap it up there. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. We have our next session in a couple of hours, which is going to
We
be
do.
really
Exciting.
exciting. I don't know which scenario we're going to do, so we can probably talk about that once I hit the stop
Let's do
recording
that
button.
imp one.
Which imp one?
When we got a reward from this one where the dude was like, "Your boss, your mate, right?" He was like, he did like John Travolta meme. We were like, "Oh, so reward?" He's like, "What money? Like, there's no money here. What are you talking about?" But he's like, "But there's this cool place called like the Imp Vault or something like that. I'm sure they have heaps of money."
That's
I was
right.
like, I feel like we're going to go rob some guy's house, right? And you're going to claim that as being our reward, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to do it.
Imps scare me a little bit. I don't know if look, I'll have a look. We'll have a look, and we'll see. I'll find one that looks like it's going to be a 30 rounder, and then I can cheer at the end when I'm still standing, going, "Where's everyone gone?"
It.
John Travolta me, you know.
That's it.
All right. Well, thank you all. We will all see you next week. I've been your host, Dirty, and I've been joined again by Gaz.
And remember, when it comes to rolling terribly, my miss doesn't come up all the time, and I crit. Yay!